The Creole debate is addressing what I'm afraid is becoming a new orthodoxy, certainly among most people who study Creoles, but at this point among other linguists, which is an idea that Creoles don't come from pigeons, that it's been somehow scientifically proven that Creoles don't start as something that isn't a language, that Creoles aren't language born again, with the understanding being that to think Creoles come from pigeons is uninformed in a scientific way, and also maybe faintly colonialist, as some have put it, and of course there's a short step from there to racist. And so the idea is that Haitian is not some interesting or exotic departure from what an ordinary Romance language is, and the only reason that we think it is because we don't understand how languages change, we don't understand how Latin became French, and we're just thinking of it as different because poor, subjugated black people speak it. That is a very interesting thesis, and it's important for linguists to check their biases, but I think that to take all of that to the extreme of saying that Creole languages are not properly a kind of language at all, except in terms of a certain specific colonial history that most of those languages have, I don't think it's true. I don't think that it's empirically accurate. And the way the debate has been conducted, and the fact that I think all of us deeply fear being racists, and I think that's important, means that I think a critical mass of people are beginning to actually accept that there's no such thing as a Creole. And I won't have that, because for one thing, I have devoted 30 years of my life to studying these languages, and I like to think that my life had some kind of point. And more to it, they are a kind of language for scientifically delineable reasons. And it's occurred to me lately that not too many people know that I've even made a case, or that my colleagues such as Mikhail Parkval and Peter Bakker have made a similar case. So I realized that there needs to be something between two covers that makes the point, and that's why I wrote the Creole debate. Creole exceptionalism started out as a slur applied by Michel de Graff at ideas like mine. I heartily embrace that slur. Creoles are exceptional. They are different. They are neonates. That's what makes them interesting. Creole exceptionalism says that you can tell that a language is a Creole based on its synchronic state, that it's not just a matter of knowing its social history, that even if you didn't, you could tell that most of the languages that are called Creoles were born probably a few centuries ago of pigeons. And I have tried to make a case that there are three features which, when combined, are indicative of birth in a pigeon. And what's very interesting is that many people have said over the years that that idea of mine has been somehow disproven. But the facts are very simple. In 21 years, no one has ever shown me a language that didn't have a history in extensive adult acquisition that combined those three features. So many people will tell you, oh no, exceptions have been found, and ask them and look at their face. Nobody has ever presented an exception. So, Creole exceptionalism is a thesis devoted to showing that when a language is born as a pigeon, the result, even hundreds of years later, is a language where you can tell that that was how it was born. And furthermore, that looking at today's 7,000 languages, you can single out which ones were born in that way, because it would be impossible, in terms of how diachronic linguistics works, for any older language to have that particular state. And so the details are about inflectional morphology and about uses of tone, and also about opaque derivation in the sense of saying something like understand, which is utterly and completely unpredictable from the combination of under and stand. Or another example, in English, that we use a word like make up. All the different things that make up means in terms of putting something on your face, in terms of reconciling with someone, in terms of creating something out of whole cloth. Most of those meanings aren't predictable from the combination of the word make and the combination of the word up in any sense. That sort of thing in a certain small subset of the world's languages is vanishingly rare to non-existent. That's another one of these three features. So Creole exceptionalism is a thesis that Creoles are exceptional. I'm glad you asked that question. In this book, I think that many linguists will particularly benefit from seeing addressed certain arguments that are often made by people who object to Creole exceptionalism, which I think too seldom responses to are seen. And so, for example, there's an idea that there's no proof that most Creoles emerged as pidgins. And that's definitely true, but they emerged in situations where almost nobody was writing anything down at all. So the idea that there are no written Pidgin Frenches from Haiti is not really an argument, because at the time that the Creole would have been forming, there's really not much written anything about language. There was no such thing as linguistics. There was no such thing as social history. There wasn't much being written down at all. Or, for example, you'll often hear it said that Creole exceptionalists base their conception of complexity on a rather Eurocentric view of what complexity consists of. That simply isn't true. And so if you look at what you could think of as the foundational texts, they very carefully look at languages spoken outside Europe, including languages that are analytic, making comparisons to Creoles and showing that no matter how you slice it, Creoles come out differently. That's been done in terms of me comparing two grammars, one Creole and one analytic, just one-on-one. That's been done with a statistical phylogenetic analysis by my colleague Peter Bakker. And so the idea that people like me have been comparing Creoles to Russian and saying, look, it's not like that, and therefore it's less complex, that simply isn't true. We've been comparing Creoles to languages spoken all over the world. I try to make that point especially clearly in the Creole Debate.